Roman time of Rome. Good afternoon to all. Welcome to this webinar organized by the UISG together with Multimedia International, MMI. I represent MMI today. We really wanted this webinar entitled Heart and Code, reflection on the wisdom in the era of artificial intelligence on the occasion of the 50th day anniversary of social communication, which was celebrated last Sunday to reflect together on the complex challenges deriving from AI, which is growing so quickly. I welcome our professors, Professor Giovanni Tridente and Professor and Father Tiziano Tosolini. They will help us to see the change of paradigm due to AI. And they will also tell us about the latest statement of the church concerning AI. Now we begin with a prayer. Navoika from the UISG will help us with the prayer.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Welcome, everyone. I'll be speaking in English. We'd like to start this meeting with a short prayer, which was written by Saint Francis of Sales. And we live in a world of dynamic changes, both globally, also, I think, in our personal life. There are changes that occur, if not all the time, then very often. Maybe also artificial intelligence is one of these changes. And maybe to some of us, it's a bit scary because we don't know much about it. We have many questions about it. So in this prayer, I think we're asking God for inner peace, openness, and creativity in just getting to know these changes and facing them. So I will read the prayer very slowly out loud. I invite you to sit comfortably. If you want to close your eyes, take a deep breath before I invite you to do so. And after I'm done, we'll take a moment of silence. And if you like, you can write in the chat the word maybe that resonates with you. Or yes, so. Do not look forward in fear to the changes in life. Rather, look to them with full hope as they arise. God, whose very own you are, will lead you safely through all things. And when you cannot stand it, God will carry you in his arms. Do not fear what may happen tomorrow. The same understanding Father who cares for you today will take care of you then and every day. He will either shield you from suffering or will give you unfailing strength to bear it. Be at peace and put aside all anxious thoughts and imaginations. So now I invite you to write a word or a phrase that resonates with you in this prayer in the chat. Hope changes, look with hope. Hope, not being afraid. Trust, communion, peace, imagination, and hope. Do not be afraid. God's care. Look forward with hope. Peace. God will take care of you. Trust in God. Courage. Thank you so much for these beautiful words and thoughts, and over to you, Pascal. Thank you.
Thank you, Navoika, for reading the prayer. Once again, welcome. And now, Professor Giovanni Tridente, he will be the first speaker. He is the Director of Communication of the Pontifical University of the Holy Cross. He teaches communication in that same university. He is also a journalist for the Vatican, and he works for the Spanish magazine Omnes, and he is in charge of covering information for the church on social media. He is also exploring the field of AI, and he has brought many books about AI. Through Professor Tridente, we will understand how the focus of the church on AI dates back to John Paul II. Then it passed through Pope Benedict XVI until the Pope Francis pontificate today. In the light of the initiatives promoted by some bodies of the Holy See, like the Pontifical Academy for Sciences or the Pontifical Academy for Life, we will explore some practical guidelines together with the professor, which can orient us in the near future, trying to understand the complex ethical dilemmas caused by AI, which can be used also in the ecclesial communication. Good afternoon. Thank you for the rich introduction. I will try to stick to the schedule. This is the title of my presentation for today's reflection: AI, artificial intelligence. What does the church teach? First, we have to agree upon the definition of terminology and issues, because for the past year and a half, we have been talking about AI, artificial intelligence. So we have to define the sector. Okay, AI, this is one of the definitions because there's so many. It is a discipline of IT, information technology, and computer science. It concerns algorithm and softwares which allow machines to carry out activities imitating human intelligence. That's an important term. They imitate, they do not duplicate. And this concerns understanding language, recognizing images and sounds, and problem solving. Look, we understand now that AI, or artificial intelligence, is not a new subject, and it includes all techniques so that a computer can imitate a human behavior. Within AI, there's also machine learning, which is techniques based on computers learning. And last is deep learning, which is a set of machines, computers. They learned based on neural networks. So it's similar to the way the human brain works. You probably have heard talking about LLM, large language models, which is an evolution of AI, which is called generative artificial intelligence. So it's big language models using natural language. So when we interface with Chat GPT, for example, we understand how it works, the response, because it's connected to our ability of language. These programs can translate, answer questions, and complete texts in an automatic way. These are all based on statistics model deriving from data they received during the training stage. It's a statistic calculations of probability. So understanding the text is so important. Think, for example, when you use your mobile phone, your smartphone, you use your WhatsApp, you write a text message, the program proposes a word. You start texting, writing down a text, and WhatsApp proposes a word. It uses this model. So we have considered these instruments as bullshitters. That is not really liars, but they are bullshitters because they tell stories. They are not connected to lies, but they try to to convince the interlocutor so that the user understand that response by the machine as the true response, the genuine answer, but it is a statistic probabilistic calculation. There is an evolution in these systems, and now, so that these machines can become more accurate, RAG was introduced, Retrieval Augmented Generation, RAG or RAG, where during the functioning of LLM, we can insert our own personal documents, for example. So the probability calculation between terms and verbs can be happen from a genuine response because it's based on information that we have inserted and not in the general training which the program has mined or extracted from internet. So the timeline of AI, artificial intelligence, of course, this past year has been the talk of the town, but we have to know that this dates back at least 70 years in time. 70 years ago, the first formulation on intelligence based on machines imitating or copying human behavior, and it dates back in 1950. It's a theory formulation based on a British mathematician expert. He has developed the first examples of algorithm back then. And he wondered, will machines be able to think? That was considered the element which could identify a machine with man. And so this Alan Theory, this British man, he made a test. He said, let's make a hypothesis. There is an instructor with a machine in one room, and then there's another person in the other room. And the instructor, he asks the same questions to the machine and to the person in the other room. And the instructor cannot tell whether the answer comes from the machine or from the human person. It means that the machine has reached a level of understanding similar to the level of human understanding. It's a debate which is still going on, ongoing. It's not about messing up with understanding or consciousness. It's about calculation, power of calculation, which is so strong, which may overcome the skills of a human person. In 1964, there is a first example of conversation between man and a machine. This happened long time ago. In 2002, we have this Roomba device. It's a sort of vacuum cleaner. It has a sort of AI inside. Even Alexa, that we all have in our homes, most of us. So, do you see this debate dates back in time? But things seemed different in the past. Now we have to consider the underlying difference between the human brain, our ability of thinking, and the artificial brain, that is a machine, a computer. We have an organic brain. We can understand, and we have agency. That is, we are agents. We have responsibility. Unlike AI, an Italian philosopher, Luciano Floridi, invites people on this reflection, on this data. I agree with him that calling these machines as intelligence is a bit misleading, because this definition was taken from scientific research in the sector of neuroscience, neurobiology. So the terms were taken. However, this philosopher tells us, let's make a distinction between understanding and action or agency. So man can understand what he is doing. Machine does actions, carries out actions without being aware, without consciousness what it is doing, because it responds to a logic, to an algorithm, a sequence of input, of indication, without understanding. So he calls these are zero intelligence machine. Even ChatGPT when it is asked, what is human conscience? It is based on mathematical algorithm. Of course, ChatGPT does not have free will. It uses data which were inserted in the program. It has no experience of life and does not understand what it gives back. So people talk about challenges connected to artificial intelligence. I like to consider also the advantages, because all this comes from the human brain, human creativity. So there are advantages concerning automation, the ability to speed up tasks, repetitions, precision. Machines respond to difficult inputs in a precise way. These machines allow us to obtain a correlation among data quickly. In the past, this had to be done manually, and now everything is quick. As for safety and security, AI is good, because think about lonely people or people with some disorders or ecological transitions. These machines can help implementing in developing countries, for example, solving drought, for example, or removing poverty. They favor scientific progress. If you think about the sector of health and medicine, they give out data, big data, so people get to know more information. Then there are challenges where people are called to problem solving actively. So the challenge is that some jobs will be replaced. There are problems, issues concerning privacy, prejudices, also the improper use, like deceit and scams, and global risks such as AI in arms and weapons. We have seen this in the last wars, unfortunately, which seem to remove the responsibility from mankind. That is, we have to blame it on machines, on the AI. No, but the responsibility is always individual, that is human. So we have talked about the training of this machine. So the training and the contents of these machines brings something back to the so-called wired cultures, that is the Western world, which is rich, industrialized, because some surveys were carried out, and people and the machines were asked, these systems were asked certain questions, and the same questions were asked to single individuals, and the answers by the machines were closer to the people from this culture I just mentioned. If we talked about democracy, look at this democracy index, it's just 80% of the world population's full democracies, and 30% of the world population does not have access to internet, so they cannot access to AI. And the other prejudice, the gender stereotype, for which personal assistants that you have on your smartphone, for example, all have female's name, women's name, because the stereotype is that the women are serving, they are humble, they offer service, so they're called Alexa, Siri, Cortana, all female names, because engineers are mostly men. Okay. There is an impact of AI in three main areas, especially number one, in the relationship with others. It has an influence also in the relationship with oneself, in our own perception. This may cause anxiety. And it influences also in reference with one's fellow neighbor, also at a spiritual level, because we tend to consider these machines as modern gods, or we might feel as God by using these machines, by using AI. Is ChatGPT safe or not? Okay. If you want to use, whether the use of this machine is useful, it depends how you use them. And the content should be true or not. Okay, if you look at this graph, but if you are not interested in the fact that the result is true, then it is safe. But you always have to verify on your own. So the responsibility is always of people and not machine. Now, let's see the teaching of the church, of the magisterium. I have been carrying out a study, a research, where I studied the popes, starting from John Paul II. He was considering about replacing men with robots. In 1986, he started wondering about it, John Paul II. And he has always repeated that man has always been at the center of this process of machine development, and man should never become a victim. Benedict XVI continued reflection at the Lateran University, has invited people to reach a balance between our freedom to use these machines, to use technology, and the consequences, the balance between all opportunities, but also dangers and risks. And then with Pope Francis, now, in the past decade, AI grew a lot, and Pope Francis, he talked about AI. He made more than 20 speeches on AI, especially on the past statements for the World Day of Peace and the Day for Social Communications. He's asking people to reflect on the universal ethics and the need to regulate AI. And so we see the focus of the church privileging always man at the center, and man has responsibility. And according to the church, governments should regulate AI and technological the progress. So that is John Paul II in his speech in 1987. He is asking the people always to be responsible, and everything has to be at the service of man. Benedict XVI, each science must always safeguard man and promote his aspiration for the authentic good. And Pope Francis, we always have to give a positive contribute to the future of humanity. Also, Catholic books and magazines, if you think about the Civiltà Cattolica magazine, has been probing into AI since the 1980s. So the Catholic publishing houses always propose to give space to the voice of the church. They know that the church has the ability to interpret and lead the anthropological demand and consider always the uniqueness of the human person and to protect human dignity, safeguard human dignity. The academy. I was considering about the pontifical academics, the pontifical academia, where experts from all over the world gather, even from other religions, and they came up with 8 points stemming from a reflection started in 2016. The Academy, Pontifical Academy, has issued many statements. So, focus on the consequences of technology. Create systems which are reliable. Opt for a shared responsibility. Aim at effects which are for the sake of humankind. Work on a better, greater balance, fairness, excluding discrimination, share best practices, and agree on regulations, rules and regulations, because it is important to have criteria, rules and regulations on technology and AI, because it has an impact on our lives. April 2nd, the latest issue by the Doctrine of Faith, the Dicastery of Faith, talks about technology. If technology is to serve human dignity and do not harm it, it is to promote peace rather than violence, then the human community must be proactive in addressing these trends with respect to human dignity and the promotion of the good. This is a document which is the synthesis brought about by the Pontifical Academy of Life, and it includes the main principles. This is the call for AI ethics: transparency, inclusion. Everybody should benefit from technology, responsibility or accountability, impartiality. These must be reliable tools. Then reliability, security, and privacy. The systems must be secure and respect privacy of users, because there are a lot of data, big data, and they must be protected, and so we must be protected. The message for Social Communication Day, you know it, I will not repeat it, but it talks about responsibility of all baptized, the importance to cultivate relationships and to take care of this system, because the Pope says we're facing a cultural change. It concerns us all, so we have to consider what is best for men. And the reflection starts from the heart of our freedom, of our choices, of our dreams, our desires, and it is the place where we cultivate our encounter with God. We can draw the power to problem solving from there. This document is very spiritual, very important, not so technical, but spiritual, because the starting point of our social life is this, our heart, how our heart is feeling. If we have a clean heart, then the consequences will be good. We have to grow in humanity, in subjectivity, in critical thinking, very strong approach. Critical thinking should always be there. And we have to find the way to guarantee transparency, pluralism, sustainability, and accessibility to all. These are the three concluding functions. We are used to conceiving these discoveries with two extremes. Either we are too thrilled or we are too scared. So I invite you to balance with realism, take things the way they are, but considering the importance of knowledge and training information, we have to know how these systems work, how we can use them to improve our life. We have to be creative when we use these systems. Are we using them to improve our relationships, our lives, our jobs, and always with responsibility? This means that we have to stop if there is a moment where we over-risk, where the risk is too high, and there will be one unique answer to this evolution, which will be our ability to ask questions to us. Machines respond to questions, answer to questions. The only one who can still be amazed when asking questions to us, it is ourselves, it is us humans, because machines learn. But what are we teaching machines? So it is our responsibility. Thank you, Professor Tridente. You have shown us not only the evolution of artificial intelligence, but also its limits and the misleading deceits, emphasizing how AI imitates, copies human intelligence. And he has shown us how to emphasize the difference between a human brain and a machine, acting and understanding. Thank you so much, Professor. You have shown us the advantages, the challenges from AI, also through present-day church reflections. Thank you, Professor. We will treasure all this. Now, I invite all for 3, 4, 5 minutes of silence and write down questions in the chat box if you have questions. So 3 or 4 minutes of silence. And if you have questions to Professor Tridente, you can write down the questions in the chat box. At the end of the meeting, we will try to reply to some of your questions.
Bene, ringrazio tutti, vedo molte domande nello chat, cercheremo di rispondere ad alcune alla fine dopo l'intervento nella seconda parte del nostro incontro. E passiamo ora al prof Tiziano Tosolini, di cui ho avuto anche l'onore di essere
I have
studentessa.
had the honor of
Tiziano
being
Tosolini
a
appartiene alla
student.
congregazione dei
Father
missionari saveriani
Tosolino
e ha
belongs
vissuto
to the
in Giappone.
Saverian
Ha
congregation.
studiato teologia e
He
filosofia
has lived in Japan. He has studied theology
in Scozia
and
e poi è
philosophy in
dottorato in
Italy and
teologia. Poi è stato
Scotland.
direttore del
He
centro di
has
studi
been
asiatico dei
the
missionari saveriani a
director
Osaka
of the
in Giappone.
Saverian Missionary
È stato direttore della rivista
Study
Termini del
Center at
centro studi
Osaka in Japan.
e dal 2001 è
Since
ricercatore al Nazan
2001,
Institute for Religion
he
and
is
Culture
a
a Nagoya.
researcher for the Nazan
Dal
Institute for
2015 è
Religion and Culture
ricercatore
in
emérito
Nagoya,
all'Università
Japan.
Gregoriana di
Since
Nicosia,
2015,
in cui ha la
he
maestria in
is
filosofia.
teaching at the
Si laurea
The
in filosofia
Pontifical
delle religioni.
Gregorian
È stato
University.
visiting
He teaches
professor
philosophy and
all'Università di Loyola
at the Center of Interreligious Studies. He has been visiting professor at the Loyola School of Theology in Manila in the Philippines. He has published many books in the sector of science and religion. He has wrote many books. And he wrote about transhumanism, considering religions, especially Asian religions. Professor Tosolini will focus on the change of paradigm in the sector of AI. He will show us the necessary aspects to keep in mind when we talk about confidence, trust in AI, and the questions and reflection from the theological and religious point of view. Thank you for inviting me. Sister Therese has invited me. And thank you to Professor Tridente. Thank you for all the people. We are here thanks to technology. I will talk about the 3 points mentioned by Pascal, the shift in paradigm by AI. What are the aspects of AI and what are the questions? I would like to echo the words of Pope Francis on January 1st on AI and peace. The Pope talked about it. The Pope mentioned the criteria to assess new technology. He talked about the dignity of mankind in the principle of totality, so also from a spiritual point of view, not only physical point of view, and fraternity, because we live in a common home, as Pope Francis says. So the Pope talked about a human integral development and, for example, in the sector of culture, in the health sector, in the church. And so the Pope said what is necessary is an interdisciplinary dialogue together connected with important ethical parameters. First, respecting mankind as such. First, don't fall into the spiral of a technological dictatorship. That is, don't become slaves of technology. And then there's another risk at a personal level, for example, the loss of privacy, the loss of intellectual property, at social level as well, the fake news. Unfortunately, this year, many countries will held elections. If you think about Europe, America. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of worry for AI because AI may, if used in a wicked way, may influence in elections outcomes in the voting system. Men and women of goodwill have to cooperate in order to hand down to future generations a better world, which is more peaceful. So the Pope said to hand down to new generation a better world. That's a challenge. Now, I'll try to be very simple. As Professor Pridente said, we need at least one definition of AI in order to understand what we are talking about. And so I use the same words of the speaker before me. The first definition of AI given by a scientist to a conference, and he defined it this way: make machines behave in ways which might be called intelligent if a human person should behave the same way. Make machine behave in an intelligent way, so to say, if a human person were to behave the same way. This is one of the many definitions of AI. Let's not talk about the various forms of artificial intelligence because there are so many. Artificial intelligence is narrow because it is focused. It is focused on a specific task. For example, Google Maps, when we say we have to go someplace, or Siri, we say, okay, tomorrow morning, wake me up at 7. There is a second way, a strong way, so-called strong, which should be used specifically for humans. And the third is the so-called augmented intelligence or extended. It's AI to build machines not replacing humans, but supporting humans, cooperating. This is very evident in the healthcare sectors. For example, a person a doctor in a human doctor, for example, had a score of 3.5, and the outcome of AI was 7.5. But if the two were combined together, the score was excellent, for example. So this is called augmented intelligence. So it's a combination between a human person and AI. Okay. We are facing a shift in paradigm. For example, I borrow this word from a philosopher, Thomas Cook. In 62, he wrote about the structure of scientific revolution. He called paradigm the complex, the set of basic concepts, key concepts and methods used by science to solve certain problems. A paradigm is a set of concepts used by scientists to solve specific problems. For example, something is the fact that paradigm does not concern science only, but it is our entire vision of the world, the way we understand the world, we conceive it. For example, a shift in paradigm is from the Ptolemaic system to the Copernican system, when we realize that there's no at the Earth at the center of the universe. So this has changed our vision of the world. We are no longer at the center of cosmos. We have relativized us. Or also in the sector of physics, Newton physics considered that space and time were always the same. And then Einstein came up and he says it's relative. It depends on the spectator, on the point of view. Okay, so there has been a shift in paradigm. So before understanding the change, the shift, we have to understand the paradigm before, which had not created problems. It is the paradigm of the procedural algorithm, an algorithm which was implemented by man, saying to the machine what it has to do. It is the so-called recipe, so to say. So like we follow a recipe to bake a cake. We read the instruction to bake a cake. So the procedural algorithm carried out exactly what man told it to do. What is the main issue of this principle? If the person did not know how to explain to machine what it had to do, machine didn't do it. So the machine, the computer, would stick to man's instruction only. That is this algorithm. We say to the machine, you do this, and the machine does it. Now, the shift in paradigm, the shift in our mindset, the way we interpret the world, there has been a shift in paradigm because researchers started adopting shortcuts which have brought to a development, unfolding development, but has left these researchers not able to understand how a machine would have behaved. So before, we said to the machine, do this equation, and the machine did it. Now, with these new shortcuts, so to say, we don't know what the machine is doing. So what are these shortcuts? And I follow the idea of a distinguished professor from Bath University. Scientists have taken shortcuts because they were not able to create AI which is independent. The first shortcut is to use statistics, regular elements from data, extracted from data, to make predictions with no need to understand the rules of the game. Let's consider as an example the translator, like Google Translator or DeepL Translator. At the beginning, these translators, translating programs translated word by word. Then we realized that the translation should be at a semantic level, not syntactic level. The machine, the computer, has to understand the sense, the meaning of the sentence, and not just words. Literal translation word by word is not good. It does not mean anything into another language, for example. So first we have to understand the sentence and then to translate it into another language. So men were not able to make machines understand semantics. So they did harvesting, data harvesting. They took all big data and they said, in this situation, when you find this term, usually it is translated with this term, no matter if you understand or not our language. So it is a translation which is better, because if you use now Google Translate or another program, you see that the translation is better now. The computer, the machine, AI is translating in a better way, like average. So the new science of these intelligent machines this science does not speak our language. It talks about probability and mathematical maximization. That is the first shortcut scientists did. Obviously, a lot of data is necessary, big data. For example, the computer, to recognize a face of a person, needs at least 4 million of photos. Can you imagine if you have to give all data to a computer so that computer can start reasoning, quote unquote? So the second shortcut was to give the computer all data from the internet. So where is the problem? Oh, these data grew during COVID period of time because we were connected all online, sharing photos, texting, and the computer was taking up all data. So what the computer learned is interesting, but at the same time is dangerous because and everybody is using the internet, not only people sharing prayers, for example, or pictures, but people sharing, for example, how to build arms. And last shortcut is that by doing so, using this type of AI, the users were sort of spied. So AI is understand how we think and what we want. For example, I ordered a book online on the Amazon, and the following day I received a proposal by Amazon. Oh, why don't you order also this book? So we are being spied, our choices. And the problem, behavioral psychologists say this, is that we are predictable now. For example, the computer understands what we like and proposes. And this is the third shortcut. And this is the shift in paradigm. The nature of knowing the machine is changed because in the past, people looked for simulation. For example, we thought that if we had constructed a machine translating language, we would have had as a side effect how language works. For example, if people build a flight simulation, it's the same thing. But the problem is that today machine can do things which seem to be cannot be explained. That is, we don't know why the machine is doing this. So the development of AI is connected to AlphaGo. It's an acronym, AlphaGo. AlphaGo. Go is a game. It is a Japanese online game. You have to conquer a territory with this game, AlphaGo. It's a computer program. It's like a board game online. And what happened? That the computer recorded all the AlphaGo games all over the world. And the greatest AlphaGo player is a person from Korea. So during a game, during a game between the Korean person and the computer playing AlphaGo, there's also a documentary called AlphaGo. You will see what happened. So it's like a game. It was this game between the human player from Korea and the computer. After playing, the computer won. So the game between the Korean person and the machine ended up with the computer winning. And this is crazy. That's just the beginning. So it's a game. So a computer program beated a human professional Go player without handicap. And now, my second point, how can we trust artificial intelligence. There has been another communication philosopher I love so much, Marshall McLuhan. He was very famous. He said the medium is the message. And he also said, we forge our tools, and then our tools forge us. So there is a change in the paradigm. Again, so the two magic words to understand whether we can trust AI or not. So the magic words are responsibility and assess. We have to consider who is responsible for the effects, the side effects of AI. Is it the user, the producer? Is it the operator? And also verify, because we will arrive to a point where we will have self-driving car. And for example, if a woman crossing the street is run over by a car, by a self-driving car, who is responsible? Who is accountable? Is it the responsibility? Is it of the software inside the self-driving car, or well, we don't know. We now don't know. It has to be regulated. And the second issue is verifiability. That is, you have to verify. Inspection. How can we trust systems that we cannot verify or inspect? Because people don't tell us so. Okay, we are now on ChatGPT-4, but ChatGPT-5 is no longer open source. It cannot be verified. It is not verifiable, but we can not leave this responsibility only with the producers. So trust is a rational conviction in the skills and the goodwill of the people. So I have to, if I have to trust in you, I have to be sure that you're not manipulating me, and I have to be sure that you are respecting me. I have to be sure that the machine is transparent and not trying to deceive me. It is correct, and it has to respect my privacy. It's not simple at all. For example, so you understand better, AI is based on data. In America, there was a court ruling which decided if some people committed a crime, may repeat the crime. According to some judges, like colored people might relapse, that is, might commit the crime again more than white people. But then we realized that the result given to us by the machine, so the judge used the machine, was because we have entered data only of Black people, of colored people, and not white people. So we have to be very careful. We have to see the interaction of the software with society and with individual society. So everybody has to participate into this debate: sociologists, psychologists, jurists, doctors. 2016, President Obama did something really cute. How can we face risks connected to AI? And Obama said we have to have a person just shutting off the electricity, so then shutting off the computer. He said this as a joke, but we cannot do it because AI now is part of many parts of our society, many sectors, and we can no longer shut switch it off. And we are not really sure what we're doing because we're heading towards a social machine taking decisions for us with criteria that we don't understand, do not understand. And this is the following cultural challenge for AI, and the Pope even said this. And my last point, this shift in paradigm does not concern only the vision of the world. It concerns also our religious vision, and there's so much to say. For example, a new type of anthropology. What do I mean? So far, our bodiliness was considered important, our body, our corporality. We live and learn with our body. If AI is implemented in certain way, what matters is data, not our bodiliness, our physical body. For example, if the world became flesh, for AI, flesh has to become the word, a data, IT data, which can be manipulated because according to AI, you are your information. It's not connected to your body. Then a new eschatology. Where are we heading to? Somebody says there is the theology of AI. Theology reflecting on the notion of theosis, the possibility of man becoming God and imitating God. This is where we are now. But we know that through Jesus' resurrection, Jesus has overcome death. With AI, we don't know where we will go. Maybe are we going against the will of our Creator? Who knows? It's all new, unknown. Many people consider that our moral is not the choice, the fruit of our choices, of our freedom. It's a matter of anatomy, how our brain works, matter of hormones, genetics. If we, through AI, nanotechnology, are able to modify our neurons, many people say we might change the moral attitude, which is negative. Think about mass murder, giving a man an ethical pill, so to say, so we all become good people at a chemical level, at the level of AI. A new relationship with the otherness. Young children at kindergarten now, instead of turning the pages of a book with their hand, they do it the way they you use a mobile phone, like a touch screen. So there's a change. There's a downsizing of the analogical world. For example, in your cell phone, you have everything inside, a camera, TV, newspaper, your credit card. It's everything inside your mobile phone, your cell phone. And in the future, there will be no longer like a paper envelope with a paper letter. So the relationship with others, with these new technologies, if I transmit with technology, if I transmit not only my ideas, but also my weak spots, and the machine then learns my weak spots, we are shifting from a concept of truth to a concept of exactness. We no longer tolerate making mistake, the error. So from truth to accuracy, to exactness. But it's two different things, because the truth of love is not an accuracy of love or the exactness of love. Love is feeling, being together. So truth is fading out. And what is coming more and more is accuracy, exactness. This is the end of the experience, the way we know it, experience with others and with ourselves, because we need time to know who we are, where we are going, how can we adjust our attitudes. We need time, and AI does not give us time. Thank you for this time. And I conclude with a little story. Do you know Noah Harari? He is from Israel. He wrote many books. He was invited at a congress talking about AI and the future of humanity. He made an interesting speech. At the end, he said, okay, I have talked about AI. I told you that what I have talked about is a fruit from my intelligence. If in the past a person would have said, yes, the speaker was good because he has shared certain ideas, his personal ideas. Now, we don't know whether what he said, what I said, he said, comes from my intelligence or comes from Chat GPT-4. We don't know. And he said, take a couple of minutes to consider this. Thank you, Professor, for your excellent presentation, theoretical and practical. So we reflected on paradigm influencing our behavior in the world, and AI can help us if it is used well in order to cooperate with mankind and not replace mankind. Machine can share words with men, but not the meaning of these words. So the difference between the real world and the virtual world. And we always have to be careful and focus in the world in which we live. Thank you. Now, again, some minutes of rest for the interpreters. And so at the same time, you can write down the questions in the chat.
le domande che avete per il professore.
If you have questions, write them in the chat box. Then Anna Wojka and Mirja will pick some of the questions and they will try to read them and to answer them. And I apologize if we don't have time to read and answer all the questions. Now, again, 3 or 4 minutes of time to write down the questions. Oh, there's so much food for thought. I see very interesting questions. Now I give the floor to Navojka to pick some questions. We still have 20 minutes. Maybe we can tell the professors the questions and let's see whether we can answer most of the questions.
Okay, so first question in English. Will artificial intelligence not widen the gap between poor and rich? How will poor who cannot even afford a laptop be part of this technology?
Questa domanda è stata fatta dopo l'intervento del prof.
This
Tridente, quindi
question was
magari se riesce a
done
rispondere
written before,
Grazie.
after Professor Pridente.
In effetti è questo uno dei rischi
Okay, this is one of the risks,
che ho cercato
main
di
risks.
accennare, quando ho fatto riferimento al bisogno
I
di
was
equità.
referring
Il
before
fatto
to
che,
the need of
appunto, si
fairness,
possa continuare questo divario
equity.
tra i
So
paesi sviluppati, che sono
the
quelli
gap
che
may be
stanno
widened
aiutando lo sviluppo di queste
between
tecnologie,
developing
perché
countries
sono quelli che
and
lo
the poor
finanziano,
countries, because
evidentemente.
sorry,
Allo
developed
stesso
countries
tempo,
and the
il
developing
rischio è
ones,
che i paesi
because the rich countries
del
are
sud del
supporting
mondo,
AI, and the risk is that the countries of
possano
the southern
continuare
part of
a
the
subire
world
questo divario,
continue
restando soltanto dei
being
fornitori di risorse. Mi spiego. Lo stesso
become
addestramento
only
diciamo,
resource
di
givers,
questa intelligenza
and
artificiale
so
generativa
the gap is
è
widened
avvenuta, certo,
because
prendendo dalla rete molte delle informazioni,
a lot of
dalla
information was
quantità di
taken from
documenti a
the
disposizione,
internet, from
che
all
poi
the
c'è
documents
anche da dire
online.
che il 50% di questo
50%
materiale
of the
è in lingua
material
inglese.
is in English, of the resources
Quindi
are in
anche qui
English,
vengono escluse
50%,
culturalmente molte
excluding
popolazioni.
many
Invece i
populations
paesi del
who do
sud
not
del
speak
mondo
English.
sono stati
So the
utilizzati
countries
come
of
manodopera
the south of the
nella
world
fase
were
di
used
verifica
as
e
countries
controllo
of
di questi sistemi.
to verify and control this
Questo
system.
divario è un rischio
So
forte,
this gap
allo stesso
risks
tempo è la
increasing,
più grande necessità
but at the
che
same
abbiamo anche di
time,
risolvere,
it is the
e con
greatest
l'ausilio delle
need that we
tecnologie,
have to
con
solve
delle buone
with
regolamentazioni,
technologies and good
e
regulations,
prendendo in carico questa responsabilità
and taking
di
up this
occuparsi degli ultimi,
responsibilities
come
that is
anche
to
dice il
take care
Papa
of the least,
anche nel messaggio
like
per
the
la
Pope
pace,
said,
possiamo
then we can
tentare una
try
soluzione
to solve
che
the
ancora una
problem
volta è demandata a ciascuno di
given
noi.
to each of us. That is, we all are responsible for trying to find a solution.
Grazie professore, ne vorrei leggere un'altra
Another
in italiano.
Another
Mi
question.
chiedono, secondo lei qual è il più grande rischio
According to you, what is the greatest risk in using AI today in the world, which calls for urgent
Sicuramente quello
regulation?
della sicurezza,
Oh, the risk connected to safety
armamentistica,
and security
credo, a rischio globale,
in
in
weapons
cui
sector, in arms
le
sector,
macchine lasciate senza
where
regole per un utilizzo
machines left alone
bellico
with no regulations for war
possono creare un problema
create
importante.
an important problem in
Non è
wars.
un caso che i tentativi di
The
regolamentazione
attempts
anche
to
negli Stati
regulate
Uniti, nell'Unione
in the United
Europea,
States, in Europe,
anche a livello OCSE,
in
quando si è
OECD
cercato di
countries,
regolamentare
when people
l'uso
try
in
to
campo
regulate
militare,
the military use of AI,
ci si è fatti da parte dicendo che quello è un
people
ambito nel
said,
quale
oh, this is a sector, the
la
military
politica,
sector
i
is a
governi
sector in which
non entrano. Ecco,
governments
questo è un rischio forte,
do
un
not
rischio
participate.
importante,
That's a risk.
perché la grande potenza
The
anche di
power
calcolo e di sviluppo di
of
macchine
calculating,
sofisticate senza un governo
creating
adeguato
sophisticated
possono
machine
provocare
without
problemi
regulations and
globali.
without the ruling class
Questo è un rischio, secondo me, più
monitoring may really
a portata di
lead
mano, più
to global
immediato,
risks. Then there
che
is
forse è anche più
another
facile da risolvere
immediate
se
risk.
abbiamo di fronte persone
If we have good people, we
che
can
assumono una
solve
responsabilità,
it. People who are
quello
responsible. The
dell'esclusivo
risk
profitto,
of
no?
the
Le
profit
industrie che sviluppano questi
exclusiveness,
sistemi,
industries
se privilegiano il
developing these
profitto,
softwares, if they
probabilmente
privilege
metteranno da
profit, if
parte
they are only
il
profit
beneficio
oriented,
comune,
will
metteranno
let
da parte
aside
la
the
necessità
common
di
benefit,
superare
will
le
let aside
disuguaglianze.
the
Ecco,
need
però
to
è un
overcome
rischio, cioè che si possono
gaps and
sviluppare
disequalities.
sistemi
It's a
orientati
risk
al
because
solo fine
people
del profitto,
then, if the
e
industries are profit
è anche
oriented
facile,
only,
diciamo, tra virgolette,
then
poter ottemperare, diciamo.
this has to be solved, he means. Next question
Pasolini.
for the other professor.
En français, concrètement, que peut faire
In
une communauté
French,
religieuse avec
what can a religious community do in relation with artificial intelligence?
Allora, sì, visto come con il francese, professore. Bene, visto che non segue le traduzioni, la domanda sostanzialmente cosa potrebbe
The
fare
question
una
was in
comunità
French.
religiosa o
What
un
can a
istituto religioso con
religious
l'intelligenza
community
artificiale?
do with AI?
Beh, diciamo, ci sarebbero delle... dipende poi qual è il carisma di questa
It depends on the charism of the religious congregation. Missionaries?
Anche,
No, not
eh,
missionaries.
oggigiorno va molto
Today,
l'idea del sesto continente, non so,
people
del
talk
sesto
about the
continente,
sixth
sempre più
continent, that is the
di
digital
nuove
continent.
benissimo, non c'è problema. Però anche il Papa è d'accordo su questa
The,
cosa.
the
Però
Pope
alcuni
agrees on
impegni del
this
Papa
too,
usiamo questi
but
mezzi
the Pope
l'alto raggio. Alla
always
fine però in Gesù
says
cosa non può sostituire l'incontro con l'altro. Non può
that
sostituire
is,
l'incontro con
AI
l'altro.
cannot
Questo
replace the encounter with one's fellow neighbor.
gli istituti religiosi, a qualsiasi carisma appartengano a questo punto, devono favorire l'incontro.
So, religious institute and congregation should always favor the encounter with one's fellow neighbor. That is also physical encounter, meeting, being physically together.
Introduco qui una differenza che secondo me è cruciale.
And I introduce this difference between artificial intelligence and human rationality. Rationality is not intelligence. Man has the ability to reason, which is not calculation, while AI is calculation. Words are not solved by numbers, but the relationship among people a relationship which means I recognize the irreducibility of my fellow neighbor. The other person is what he or she makes me be. And we have to rediscover this because, for example, I don't like this. I just changed my software. I just changed chat. I don't even see the person who I'm talking to. I can use an avatar, and so our humanity is really lacking here. We're not things which can be exchanged. We are a gift for one's fellow neighbor. It is the other. The other one may also be my enemy, but he or she is the other. And this is what we are losing, what is fading away. We see that young people are always more interconnected online, but they're always more lonely.
Grazie, professore. Ce n'è una in spagnolo che vorrei
Another
leggere.
question
Un cambio
now
di
in
antropologia y el no
An
tener
anthropological change, and while not having the chance to stop,
significa que el ser humano
means
está
that the human being is losing its autonomy. Are we losing this change, this anthropological change, which is affecting
change
our
in
incapacity of
anthropology
putting a stop
and
to
the
our use to the machine
inability
of the
of
machines?
machines? Does it mean that
Is this
the
meaning
human
that
person
we are
is
losing our
losing its
autonomy?
autonomy? We have not lost autonomy when Gutenberg invented the press, the book. There are things which do stay in spite of scientific research or scientific discovery. The problem is, are we going to be there? Are we still going to be there as entities? This is the danger I see. At the beginning, we talked about technological dictatorship. I am convinced that the true power of man is not doing what he can do, because there's a gap between doing something and must do something. You know, the movie by Oppenheimer, the movie called Oppenheimer about the atomic bomb. Science, technology allowed people to build the atomic bomb, and then we choose what to do. And we have seen what people did with the atomic bomb. We should think ahead. Instead of using reason to determine the means, why don't we use reasoning to investigate the ends that we want to reach? Not instrumental reason used not to understand what we want to be, but to understand what to do in order to make a thing work. Our reason is more. So let's hope that we will still be autonomous, but we have to reclaim our autonomy, because there are things that we should not lose: the concept of truth, of bodiliness, the concept of faith, of word, flesh. There are things that AI makes superfluous, superficial. I need desperately my fellow neighbor.
Thank you so much. Now switching to English, and this is the question for Professor Tridente this time. It was a question that was repeated, or a worry repeated by many people in the chat. And the question is twofold. How can we protect our data from artificial intelligence, and if our personal information will be leaked or misused by AI, then what are the actions we can take?
Sì, il tema dei dati è emerso in maniera
Yes, data
chiara anche
issue
del
is clear.
Mussolini. È il nuovo petrolio.
It's the new gold, big data, new oil, new wealth. Big companies have implemented their technologies thanks to big data. The democratic phase, quote unquote, in which we have the free possibility, quote unquote, to use these systems, ChatGPT and more. This was a training phase of the system, training stage. Through our information, our requests, our human creativity. Knowing this allows the systems to have transparency, to show me how these systems are developed, to give me also the possibility to deny the use of my creativity, which makes use of our requests that we make to the system. The critical thought to assess and ask for systems which do not keep the memory of our interactions, which do not memorize our actions. This is possible now. And then there is self-regulation. There are systems which allow to make summaries of big files in PDF. For example, in few seconds, we insert this doc and it gives us a summary, helping us in time to obtain a result, which we would have used more time to obtain. To understand that this type of information, which is sensitive data, they all end up in this cloud, in these clouds of these systems, and they can be used to fuel the working of these machines. But these are sensitive personal data, and we can decide to hand into these systems or not. We decide. It's many levels that there's control should be taken care of at many levels, at government level, monitoring, self-regulation by companies choosing not, deciding not to use personal data, and a self-personal regulation to better control the use we make of our information, of our knowledge. Thank you. Now, if you are interested in probing into today's topics, you can consult the various texts by the two professors, the various books they wrote and articles, and I thank the professors for their generosity, for joining, for their precious contributions, which helped us today to shape our heart and our thought, so that we have the possibility to be responsible users of AI, aware of the importance of our role in ecclesial communication. And their speech has shown us the best way to ask ourselves the right questions vis-a-vis this quick growing of AI and its impact on our human life. Thank you so much for participating, for your attention. Thank you so much. I thank our interpreters. They are the first peace builders, thanks to their languages. And I thank all the colleagues from the UISG. I thank my colleagues from MMI for organizing this event. Thank you, Sister Therese. And goodbye. And always keep an eye on our initiatives on the two websites, the UISG and MMI website.
Merci beaucoup à tout le monde.
Gracias.
Thank you.